Hey guys, how's everything going? I'm trying to get a good view of the fire, such as it is. Mike was the fire starter, so yeah, it's killing me. Sorry, I'm just laughing at Megadesi's comment there. So this is the first time I've actually been outside to have a bonfire. Again, such as it is, because ugh, it's killing me. Okay, that's better. So since we're in a happy spot between renters, there's nobody on either side of me at the moment. Um, but yeah, there's nobody on either side of me at the moment, which is pretty rare these days. Usually I have somebody on one side, if not both, but there's nobody here. It's quiet down here. I'm hoping the fire's going to take off. It was burning pretty good. But yeah, I just decided we'd sit out here tonight and see if we heard anything. I've been hearing lots of owls, lots of coyotes. I don't like neighbors either. Honestly, that's, why we moved here because we didn't have any neighbors. I'll have to show you before I get off here what certain people have done to their landscaping. Oh, Carl is here. You may have noticed a few comments, but yeah, he's kind of here. But yeah, my charming neighbor has decided to make it look like they live in Arizona, and I don't know what it is about people with money and rocks, but they like rocks. And yeah, I'll show you guys a picture before we get off here of just what it looks like over there because it's hideous. Ugh, I just looking over there, it makes me slightly ill. But yeah, I just decided to have a live because it's a lovely night. It's only in the low 70s, and I've heard a lot of things going on. I decided at the last minute to have a live and have a fireside chat. Although it's not really a fire, it's more of a smoke signal. Oh, wait, there's flame. It's going to catch. It really did burn really nicely. Mike was usually in charge of starting the fire, but quite frankly, I don't know if it was alcohol fueled, but everyone that's seen it has just gone, wow, okay. There, there is this weird obsession between money and rocks, and I don't know what it is. Yes, there's fire attitude. But it came to my attention that here we are at the end of August, and I have not had a single bonfire. Um, Not a one. I guess you could say I've been feeling sorry for myself, but not really because I've just been missing Mike with all my heart, and everything I do reminds me of him. And especially sitting around the fire reminds me of him. But I know he'd want me to. So here I am. Just trying to listen and see what we hear. I've heard some very strange things when I've been walking out here. Carl, seriously, like I'm gonna bring Luna outside. I mean, Luna and Toby have been raised, they were outside when I got them, but if I let them outside now, they'd be in the tops of the trees and I would never see them again. Oh, I know it is catitude. I feel him every day. It's been almost 10 months and there has not been a single day that I have not cried about that man. I I considered taking some videos of him when he was bedbound and when he was on hospice, but I decided that he would not want that. He doesn't want you guys to remember him like that. It's locked in my brain, but he doesn't want you guys to know what it was like. It was awful. Well, I was with him for over 27 years, so I imagine I'm going to grieve him at least that long. We should have had decades together, and we didn't. I don't think he would have minded you guys seeing him, but I want you guys to remember him the way he was. His goofy, nasty, just weird self. I was looking through some of his older videos the other day, and I was particularly watching the video. It was the day of the one chip challenge, if you guys remember that. And he was teasing me about acting my age. And when he was making comments to you guys about me, I was flipping him off, of course. But you guys couldn't see that, but I was. I don't think he would have minded you guys seeing him at the end, though, because you guys were with him through the entire journey. And let me just tell you that glioblastoma is an ugly death. It is ugly. There's a few people I would wish it on, but not many. I know you did, Carl. It's it's an ugly death. It's like somebody has had a stroke and they have Alzheimer's at the same time, and it was ugly. He said things and did things that were completely out of context for him, and in retrospect, I guess I didn't realize that he was deteriorating as quickly as he was, because I guess I didn't want to. I mean, who would want to? But I look back at it now and I know that he was deteriorating, and I know that there were a lot of things that I should have noticed that I just didn't want to, because I didn't want to believe what was happening. I didn't want to believe that that man could be taken from me as quickly as he was. That's the cruelest thing about glioblastoma, is the fact that it you can be fine for so long and you can be doing okay and you can be holding your own, but when the decline happens, it happens fast. And it's just a cruel disease. You know, he didn't do much research on it until the end. I, of course, researched it as soon as he got his diagnosis, and he said, "Don't even tell me. I don't want to know." And he didn't want to know, because everything that I researched told me what was going to happen. You always hope that your person is going to be one of the outliers, one of those 10-year survivors, or it's not realistic. It's not realistic at all. I was hoping for the best, but I should have known better, given my track record and given his track record. He would have been so mad about this summer though, because I just know I was thinking about that, having to have the air conditioner on. He would have had the damn windows open. I know it. He would have had the windows open and I would have come home and gone, okay, I'm dying. You need to close the windows and turn the air conditioner on. Because when it was hot this summer, it was certainly terribly hot and humid. This is like the first decent night that we've had where it wasn't raining and it wasn't windy and it's a nice temperature. I've got the windows open tonight. Oh, I know we did better than average, but it's still no consolation. And then I keep getting people saying, "Did you see this article about this guy that they gave him this shot and he survived glioblastoma and it's completely gone." And I'm like, "How do I tell people? I don't care. I don't care anymore. I don't care about glioblastoma. I don't care about who's got it now because Mike's dead." It's so hard and it may sound selfish, but you know what? He's gone. And nothing is going to be of any help to him, so I don't want to hear it. When he first got diagnosed with that, he I remember him telling me, with my luck, a year or two after I die, they're going to find a cure for this. And I said, probably. We were never in two minds about our luck. But it's hard to care about this disease anymore. It's hard to care about them finding a cure. It's hard to care about anyone else that has it because what good is it going to do me? What good will it do Mike? Absolutely nothing. I did find out one thing though. Don't wear your glasses if you're crying a lot. The salt from your tears will etch your glasses. I didn't know that, but it's true. The salt from your tears will etch your glasses to the point where you can't see out of them anymore. I just got some new glasses. I ordered them from McCall. The three pairs of glasses for $119 that they always advertise. And I got them after they took a week and a half long trip all across the country, courtesy of the United States Post Office. They were supposed to be there on a Friday, and they arrived a week from Wednesday following because they just bounced back and forth. There's raccoons over there. I can hear them. I made some peach jam today. One of the guys that I work with has a peach tree that finally started producing peaches this year, and he brought in just like bags of peaches for everybody. And I made some peach jam today and baked a loaf of bread and cleaned the entire house. All before noon, mind you. Oh, what a cool spider. Look at you. Look at you. You are nifty. Look at that. That is an orb weaver right there. That's the ones that make the pretty webs. But all I could think was, all I could think was him sitting there going, "Why haven't you been outside? Why haven't you had a fire? Why haven't you done anything outside?" I don't know. Oh, Catitude, that's not even a spider. You should have seen the one I had in my house a few weeks ago. And all I could think was, "Where are you? You need to be in charge of this spider." It was a beast. The legs on it were as big as toothpicks. It was a beast of a spider. It was a wolf spider. And I managed to get it inside a canning jar and I got it outside, but I know it's depression and I know it's grief, but I can't really say anything because if anybody could milk a good depression, it was Mike. Sorry, sweetie. But I think we all know it's true. He could look at the dark side of anything. Oh, Catitude, it was a pretty little spider. She's still sitting right there. Look at that pretty girl. If you really want to see a good one, right in there in those weeds on the edge of the river, I've got one of the wolf spiders. She's about 3 inches long and she's guarding her babies. As long as she stays outside, we are all cool. Just don't come in my house. I have a never ending nightmare of one of the cats bringing me one of those spiders as a gift, like, "Hi, Mom, look what I found," and dropping it on my face when I'm sleeping. I don't even want to think about it. But you guys, on Halloween, I hope you're all going to be here because I want to have a big Halloween party. He promised me he wouldn't ruin Halloween, and he died the day before Halloween. Because I think he knew that if he died on Halloween, I would never forgive him. And I think we all knew that I wouldn't have. So he died the day before. It still kind of ruined last Halloween, but I want to. Well, here's a funny little thing. I don't know if you guys remember or not, but every year at Fates, where I work, the Saturday before Halloween, we have a big thing for the kids so that they can come trick or treating, and we do a big, to do with decorating and all that stuff. Well, this year, the owners decided that we are going to do Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Yeah, the old one, the 1971 one. We're going to we're going to do that, and I have been given the part of Violet Beauregard, the gum chewing, obnoxious, exploding blueberry of a girl. That is going to be my part. I wanted to be Veruca, but somebody else claimed Veruca, but I could have been a great Veruca salt. Snallsberries? There's no such thing as snallsberries. I told her she has to pull a great English accent. I would have been a great Veruca, but I did get the part of Violet. So I am going to be the best Violet that I can possibly be. The one guy that I work with, Mike, is going to be Augustus, and one of the guys that I work with, one of my bosses, Adam, is going to be Willy Wonka. And here's the funniest thing, because we were all talking about it, and I said, "Well, who's going to be Charlie?" And my one boss looked at me and went, "I don't know." I said, "Well, that's kind of important, don't you think? That Charlie is kind of an important portion of the story." I said, "Who's playing Charlie?" Nobody seems to know who's playing Charlie. All the other parts have been taken and are discussed and have costumes purchased and everything else. Who's going to be Charlie? We don't know. Morris. Morris. Morris is sitting here looking at me. My handsome boy. The weird thing is, I can't see my little princess spider. She's been on her web. I can see it from here, and I can't see her on the web. I can usually see her from in the house. I don't know if the high winds today shook her up or what, but I don't see her. That upsets me. But yeah, I do want to have a bonfire on Halloween. Halloween's on a Thursday. Friday? Maybe it's on a Friday. Yeah, it's on Friday. Because last year Mike died on a Wednesday, and that was the 30th, so it was on a Thursday, so it will be a Friday. Mm, I don't want to take the day off of work on Halloween. I'm probably going to take the day before, though. The other day, on August 15th, you know, I um I woke up not really thinking about it, but then when I thought back to August 15th of last year when he had his surgery, and when we thought things were going to be okay, and when we thought that things were going to improve and that he was going to feel better and that it was going to give him more time, and I started thinking about it and I started crying and I just couldn't stop, and I ended up having to call into work because I lost it. I just remember, last year on that date thinking about how things were going to be better and things were going to improve and he was going to feel better, and for weeks afterwards them telling us, "Oh, it's brain swelling. It's just swelling from the surgery." And it was like, "No, it's not." And then when they finally did another MRI and they said his tumor was back, and they said that his tumor was twice as big as it was 6 weeks prior, at that point, you can't get ahead of it. And at that point, it was like I remember he and I looked at each other and it was like, okay, this is the end, I guess. This is where we throw in the towel. We know we can't get ahead of it. I'm not going to put him through more treatment. I'm not going to, because I don't know if I've ever really discussed it with you, but when you guys remember when he had his seizures and he was hospitalized in April of last year. Well, at that point in time, the medical durable power of attorney was activated because obviously he was unconscious and he couldn't make decisions for himself. And I don't think he ever understood or realized that after that point in time, that durable power of attorney was never rescinded, because at that point, the doctors understood that he really couldn't make his own medical decisions, that he couldn't think clearly enough, and they left it up to me. And I never really told him that because I followed his wishes for the most part. But at the same time, he thought he was making his own medical decisions, but he couldn't, because I don't think he understood everything that went along with his medical decisions. And let me tell you this, having to make the medical decisions for someone else, especially for someone that you love more than life itself, and especially for somebody that you know is terminal, having to make those decisions is the hardest thing you will ever do in your lifetime, because you agonize over the smallest thing thinking, am I doing the right thing? I listened to him, and I followed his wishes, and I followed his wishes to the best of my ability for the things that he had said before his mind was completely clouded. And I tried to adhere to everything, but some things he was never he was never really good at thank you. Thank you so much there, Morris. He was never really good at making decisions anyway. But I hope to God nobody has to go through what I went through. I hope nobody ever has a person who's given a terminal diagnosis from the outset that you end up having to make decisions for. I hope I did. If I had it to do over again, if I could go back in time, I would let him have a regular craniotomy instead of the laser surgery that he had. I think the laser surgery just angered it. I do remember them telling me that the surgery would take 4 to 5 hours, and me sitting there 8.5 hours later going, what is going on? And then when he finally got to his room, he didn't want to see me. After all that time waiting and everything else, he didn't want to see me. He didn't want to see anybody. So I remember I went and got something to eat, and I came back up, and I went into his room, and his first words to me were, why did you make me do this? And that hurt, because I didn't make him do anything. We talked about it as well as we could talk about it, and he was the one that decided that the laser surgery was probably the best option. Sounded like the best option. I don't think it was the best option. But, and after all that time, after being up since 3 o'clock in the morning and waiting all that time to hear something and have those be the first words to me. I just lost it. I lost it. When you're that stressed and that worried, you just I just lost it. And I remember telling him, I'm like, you have got some nerve to say that to me after everything that I've been through with you, after everything that we're going to have to go through. You have got some nerve to say that I forced you into this. And the thing was, he had told the nurses that I forced him to do the surgery. And I mean, the nurses were questioning me as, like, was I being abusive towards him? And I remember looking at the one nurse and saying, have you dealt with brain issues before? This is the neurology floor. You know, it's like, have you dealt with somebody that's had this disease before? Have you dealt with somebody that they say things they don't mean? They say things, they have no filter. They just say whatever, whatever comes into their mind. They don't, I'm not abusing him. I am not, the nurses were asking me basically if I was forcing him to do things that he didn't want to do. And I was like, what? And I finally told the nurses, there were two of them that were asking me questions, and I finally said, I can leave. I can go home and you guys can deal with him and see if you think that he's making any sense. He was making, and I told him after that, I was like, do you realize that the things that you have said to those nurses have them questioning me and have them questioning whether to release you to come home because they think that I am abusing you? And he looked at me and said, you would never abuse me. And I said, I know that, but the things that you've said have caused them to worry. And, I understand why they had to ask me those questions. I understand that they have to listen to the patient, but at the same time, he has brain cancer. He has brain damage. Are you not, look at him. Does he look abused? There were a couple times he was about to be. But, it was just like, and I told him, honey, you can't say things like that to people because, it's you and me living in that house alone, and they're going to think that, I'm forcing you to do things, and I'm not. I would think that they would know too. I mean, like I said, it was the neurology floor. It's like, have you never dealt with someone who's just had brain surgery? They say things that are bizarre. I never told you guys this, but after he woke up from his semi comatose state when he was having seizures, the nurse the nurse that called me, Kathy and I had a really good rapport. I loved her. And the nurse Kathy that called me and to tell me that he was awake originally, she was like, I need to let you know he's being a little bit of a horn dog, but that's pretty much that's par for the course when they wake up out of a coma like this. And I was like, oh really? And she goes, yeah, he made some comments to a couple of the nurses. And I'm like, can I tell you which ones he said it to? And I told her the names, and she started laughing. She's like, you got that right, honey. I said, yeah, I know. I know exactly who he was talking to. I said, just ignore him. I never left him, Carl. but that doesn't mean that the things that he said to me don't still hurt sometimes. And I know it wasn't him and I know it was the disease and but then I start to think to myself, was this stuff that he thought all along and he just never said because he had a filter and then when the filter was removed, he said it. But then again, he wouldn't have stuck with me for 27 plus years if, things were so bad, I guess. But yeah, it was very painful. And I don't want to forget that. And I don't want to, sometimes when people die, all people can say about them is like, oh, he was a wonderful person. And this, I need to remember the bad times too, because I need to remember everything that he was. Not just the good, but I need to remember everything that he was, because they were all parts of him. I can remember him, when certain things happened that I won't go into here, but certain things happened when he was, right before he became bedbound and right before we had to call in hospice. And I remember him telling me, he's like, I am so sorry. I saw that I heard what I was saying. I saw what I was doing, but it was like I was standing next to myself. I was like, I had no control. It was, Carl. It just, anger and just absolute exhaustion. I don't know how I functioned those last few months because honestly, I would work all day, come home, and spend the rest of my evening taking care of him. I woke up an hour and a half early to take care of him before I went to work. I was I was more exhausted than at any time I've ever been in my life, but I did it. And I've had people tell me, oh, I can't believe you did that. You're such a great person. I'm like, no, I'm not a great person. And if you had somebody that you loved going through this, you'd do it too. There's no question. And that's the thing, there was never a question in my mind. But I want to remember everything. I want to remember the good, the bad, the ugly, the awesome, everything. And like I said, just watching that video of him when I did that one chip challenge and him just friggin' teasing me and making fun of me, going, "How old do we think we are?" And I was flipping him off the whole time, like, "Screw you." Oh, my bats are out. You guys can't see my bats, but my bats are flying above the river. I mean, you guys all knew, obviously, what a special person Mike was. I mean, that's what drew you to this channel. He was an amazing person. When we first met, because we had talked on the phone for weeks and weeks and weeks before we actually made arrangements to meet, and he told me that he came in and he saw me sitting at the table, and he knew it was me because I had told him what I would be wearing, and he said I almost left, and I was like, huh? Why? Why would you have almost left? Were you that turned off by me when you saw me? He was like, oh no, not at all. I just looked at you and I thought you were so out of my league that there was no way that anything was ever going to happen. He's like, I was so nervous. He said, but I just told myself, no, go to that table and go actually meet her. Oh, Mega Desies, if you could come here and watch my bats with me. Right now, there's three of them. There's a big brown and two little browns, and they're just destroying everything over the river, the hatching. That's why they come at dusk, because the hatchings happen at dusk, and they all the bugs that are hatching out of the river are going up, and they know it. I don't know why they're always right here in front of my house, but maybe it's because I love them. Oh my. Okay, well, that bat was just very close to me. That bat was very close, Megadesies. I'll tell you that much. It was, whoa. They're coming in because of the fire. The bugs are coming because of the fire, and the bats are coming in close. I still remember Mike telling me when they came to cut down the trees in our yard because they were near the power lines, and one of the guys from the electric company climbed one of the trees to peel off the dead bark. And when he peeled off the bark, there were a bunch of bats behind the bark, and they flew out, and he screamed like a little girl. And the guys on the ground were laughing so hard they could barely contain themselves. And Mike said it was just the funniest thing he ever saw. Just this guy up a tree, and all of a sudden he just screamed because all these bats came flying out. I have no problem with bats. I love them. They're just little flying mice. We used to. It's weird because up here we used to have flying squirrels. When we had the bigger trees in the yard, and we'd be sitting out by the fire, and you'd hear them come scooting down the trees, and they would jump and they would glide to the next tree. And I haven't seen one in years and years and years, but I remember Mike shining the light, and you could see them on the trees. God, I haven't seen them in 20 years, but we used to have them. They were neat. Absolutely, they can eat all the mosquitoes they want. I do adore them. I've always loved bats. They're so cute. God, it is so quiet. I can hear cars miles away. Me too. I never was one for spiders, but now, like, little tiny spiders, those aren't even spiders to me. To be a spider, you gotta be the size of my hand before I'm freaked out at this point. I used to raise caterpillars into butterflies and moths when I was little. I had a cecropia moth once. The lady that lived next to me was a substitute teacher, and she used to go up to their cabin up north, and she would bring me caterpillars and snails and all kinds of things that they found on their property up there. And I had a cecropia moth caterpillar, and I raised it to an adult. And she brought me monarch butterfly caterpillars one time that I raised to adults. Mrs. Lynch, she came to my father's funeral 10 years ago, and it was amazing. She recognized me right away, and she and I sat there having just the best conversation. She has Alzheimer's. I'm sure she's probably gone by now, but she had Alzheimer's at the time. But she remembered me right away, and I remember Mr. Lynch just looking at me and nodding, like, talk to her, absolutely. And she and I sat there having a long conversation. Want to hear something really weird, though? One of the guys that I work with has a relative that has been diagnosed with glioblastoma. And he asked me if that was what Mike had, and I said, yep, sure was. Whoa. Oh, the big brown bat just got really, really close to me again. Little browns stay much, much higher, but the big brown bat just swooped me. Whoa! He did it again. The big brown bats come low. There's a lot of milkweed around here. Actually, yesterday I looked out and Lucy was sitting outside, and there was a monarch butterfly on her back, just hanging out in the sunshine. Bats have never been afraid of me. I've always been more comfortable at night outside. Always. Even when I was little. When it was sunny and everybody was outside, I was in the house reading books and watching TV. And when it was raining or just as it was starting to get dark, that's when I would go outside. Wow, there are a lot of bats out here. There's now like 4 little brown bats and 2 big brown bats that I've seen all at the same time. Oh, I adore them. Hello, sweetheart. Wow, and they're so close that you can hear them chirping and you can hear their little wings flapping. You know they're close. I hope so. I always tell Tobias and Luna, I'm like, your dad would have loved you. Because they are just so goofy and they are so sweet. They are the sweetest 2 kittens I've ever seen in my life, and Mike would have just adored them. Morty. Domino. Hi, baby. Oh, you guys, Domino has come for a visit. She's been out all summer because, of course, she managed to pop the screen and get outside. And you know how Domino likes to be feral all summer. I do have most of my cats are inside only. Casey, Gypsy, Domino, obviously, not by choice. Morris, they can go outside. I have no problems. I let Ozzy outside today because he was being just obnoxious. And I told Mike to keep an eye on him. I said, he's your favorite. Keep an eye on him, please. And Ozzy never left the yard. Every time I looked out, he was just laying on top of the air conditioner or laying out in the yard, and he came right in at dinner. Yes, Domino looks fantastic. She comes every night. She's usually there early in the morning before I go to work, too. But when she first got outside, I didn't see her for probably a week. Who knows where she was, but and Morris is just sitting over here to the left of my chair, just chilling out in the yard. No, but I want you guys to plan on Halloween having a get together because that was always tradition, and I'm hoping that I will be in the mood to do it. Grief is so very weird. Grief is so very strange because you can make the greatest plans in the world and they all just completely fall apart because you'll wake up and go, I can't do this. And I've learned over the past 10 months or so that don't fight it. There's some days you just have to let the grief wash over you. You just have to sit with it. The price of love is grief when one of you is gone. So hi, Andrea. I also remember him saying something about, oh, when I'm gone, you'll be fine, and you'll go on, and you'll be okay. And I looked at him and I said, are you out of your mind? I said, you are my everything. I don't do anything without thinking of you. I said, how do you think I'm just going to go on like I'm just going to forget about you and just move along with my life? I said, honey, you're everything to me. And he looked at me for a second. He went, well, thanks. Thank you for that. And I remember I just rolled my eyes. I was like, really? You don't know that? I still feel him, though. How can I not? Every nail in this cabin, he and I did together, and the addition to the cabin we built by ourselves. And I mean, he's everywhere. I've had people ask me if I'm going to move back downstate to where my family is, and it's like, no. I've told a lot of people, I said, Mike died in this house, and I plan on doing the same thing, God willing, decades from now, but that's exactly what I plan on doing. Because I promised him from the beginning, from the moment that he was diagnosed with this disease, I said, if you want to be home when you go, I promise you that you will be at home. I said, if you want to be with your animals and be in your own house, and he said, yeah, that's what I want. And I said, okay. And he was. And I promised him that the last words that he would hear from me on this planet were, I love you. And they were. When I knew that he was going, I told him, I said, honey, if it's your time, go. You have fought quite long enough. You have fought harder than anybody I've seen in my life. And if it's your time to go, then go. Just if you can't do this anymore, I understand. Go, be at peace. And in the end, just having it be me and him and the animals, that was just very fitting. Because it was always him and I against the world. There were no nurses, no doctors, no nothing. It was just him and me holding his hand, his animals with him. Isn't it cool to think, though, you guys, that he knows now? He knows all about Bigfoot, and he knows who they are and what they are and why they're here. He knows. He knows everything that he wanted to know. Well, I know you guys miss him too. There'll never be another one like him. I wish he could tell us too. Least he could do is come to me in a dream and tell me, hey, this is what's going on. You would think. He owes me that much. But knowing him, he's giggling behind his hand, going, I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to figure it out for yourself. Jerk. It's just so weird to sit out at this fire by myself. It's always been two chairs at this fire. But right now, in this moment, I feel like he's here. I swear to you, I can almost feel his arms around me. Because I'm looking at this thing flying over my head right now, thinking, is that a plane? Because I just don't know that that's a plane, because it just looks very weird. And it's completely silent. And there's no blinking lights on it. Weird. He's got to be, right? He wouldn't miss bonfire. I don't know if you guys can hear that plane, but that's not what I just saw flying over my head. I can see the plane that's making this noise. Man, there are weird things around here. All right, guys. Well, I think I'm going to get going because I'm going to go in the house and get ready for bed. But mark your calendars for Halloween. Last year was the first year in I don't even know how many years, over 40, that I did not carve any pumpkins. But I will carve them for this year because he'd be mad at me if I didn't. He forgave me last year. I was planning on doing them. I always do them the day before Halloween, so I was planning on doing them that day, but obviously things got in the way. All right, you guys. Well, thank you for coming. And I will keep you posted. Maybe we can have another bonfire before Halloween, depending on how things go. I can't make any promises, but we can try. Thank you, guys. You all mean more to me, and you meant more to Mike than you guys will ever know. So I will talk to you guys soon.